Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I just wanted to thank the Phoenix Sun Gorilla for joining us tonight.
Oh, God. Joe Giammatteo.
Hello there, bodacious Bartlett.
That is my stage name. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 16th, 1998. This Raw was recorded at the America West Arena in Phoenix, Arizona, and features Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, Michael Cole, and Kevin Oh My God Kelly on commentary. Are you guys ready?
And the Phoenix Suns gorilla.
I am ready, even with the gorilla.
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. Just so our listeners know, the Cock has this listed as March 17th for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I did double check, and this is March 16th. 16th was a Monday.
Things got messed up when they did that Saturday Raw. Things got messed up on the Cock dates.
That, and I could have swore I remember last week JR saying, don't forget to join us Tuesday.
Maybe.
Yeah, well.
Everything online says 16.
Someone's messed up here.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, goddamn, this arena was packed to the rafters, quite literally. We got a great view of the crowd, and they were popping. Kicking things off tonight, Kevin Kelly was up in the ring to welcome Ken Shamrock for an interview, and Kevin got right to it. He was asking Ken about his recent history with the Nation of Domination, particularly The Rock. Kevin wanted to know if Shamrock will be able to keep his temper in check when the Intercontinental title is on the line at WrestleMania. And goddamn, Kenny hit this out of the park, man. He hit the right notes in the right way. A very well-delivered promo in a style that fits Shamrock very well. He was playing up to the crowd with his responses. Surprised the hell out of me how well Kenny did here. But that got interrupted by The Rock up at the top of the ramp, and by God, business picked up. As loud as they were cheering for Kenny, they booed twice as loud for The Rock. The Rock called Kenny a jabroni. I popped my ass off for that. And things kept getting better as The Rock threw down a challenge. If Shamrock can hang with any member of the nation for longer than 2 minutes, The Rock was going to give Shamrock a chance at the Intercontinental title tonight. The Rock then threw D'Lo Brown under the bus. D'Lo got voluntold to go down to the ring. D'Lo made a really great show of protesting that, and unfortunately, as D'Lo was protesting, Kenny yelled into the microphone to D'Lo, "Shut your monkey ass up," end quote. Ugh, that was not good. D'Lo did take umbrage to that, which jump-started our first match of the night. Ken Shamrock defeats D'Lo Brown by disqualification in 1 minute and 49 seconds. Goddamn, D'Lo started strong here. This was probably the stiffest, most powerful work from D'Lo we've seen yet, and I loved JR putting D'Lo over like he always does.
Might have been that comment.
Yeah, wouldn't blame him there.
No.
This was short, like I said, a minute 49, but it was a fantastic showing between both D'Lo and Shamrock. And just as the ankle lock got applied, with plenty of time for Kenny to win it, The Rock got in the ring and blasted Shamrock across the back with a steel chair to interrupt the submission attempt. But that wasn't the end of it. Kenny requested one more time, and The Rock obliged. He fucking railed Ken Shamrock in the face with that steel chair. He laid Shamrock out. JR exploded. "Shamrock's hurt! He's hurt bad!"
His equilibrium is absolutely destroyed, was what JR said.
Now, this whole time, Farouk had been kind of standing back, taking a co-pilot role, if you will. But now Farouk got in the ring, I guess to criticize what The Rock was doing. Honestly, couldn't tell really what was being said between them, but it looked and felt like a disagreement. A swarm of officials came in to check on the unconscious Ken Shamrock. The Rock left, and we broke to commercial. I mean, we had a ton of greatness in this episode already right off the bat, and I have to pause it here because this story does continue a little bit into the next segment. But by God, fellas, we got fantastic promos from everybody. We got a short but amazing match. We got some gratuitous extra violence. We got stories progressed. We're laying the groundwork for Farouk to be a babyface against Rocky after WrestleMania. I fucking loved all of this. Joe, please, what'd you have on how we started the evening?
Well, I think it's really exciting that we have so many good things going into WrestleMania 14, because a year ago, we didn't have this. The best match from that event was not even the main event. So it's nice to have that refresher, and I think a big part of that is The Rock. The Rock is really settled into the Rock character. He's already the most electrifying man in the WWF at this point, in my opinion. He's coming out dressed like The Rock, with the expensive shirts and shit, cutting promos on people, calling them jabronis, and doing all of his catchphrases tonight.
Yeah.
He's doing the eyebrow. He's calling himself the people's champ all the time. So he's really settled into it. And this is a really good program that they have built here between him and Ken Shamrock. I'm really enjoying what they've done so far. And I'm really looking forward to that match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I completely agree. It started pretty good with Ken Shamrock out here with Kevin Kelly in the ring, and they re-show the Farouk not helping The Rock, so we reseed that in our minds. Ken did a pretty good promo here. I mean, it was a little bit confusing when you have someone talking about that they have complete control of them losing their temper. That doesn't really make much sense, but the actual promo that he gave was pretty good and on character for Ken, though. Roid rage and all. One thing, though, when The Rock comes out, it's just great to hear the crowd boo him so loud right now, knowing that it's going to change so quickly, especially on a night like tonight. We've said umpteenth times already, The Rock is really coming into The Rock character now. But Joe, as you pointed out, I mean, it was all tonight. Know your role, shut your mouth, jabroni, the eyebrow. I mean, we were just getting all of the iconic quotes from The Rock tonight. So he, as you said, definitely is settling into that character at this point. And then the match between Shamrock and D'Lo, although short, was very entertaining. Both guys, I thought, put in a pretty good showing. And then when The Rock came in and started lighting Shamrock up with this chair, that fucking chair shot to the head. I know the most famous Rock chair swing is the one to Mick, but he just keeps on fucking doing this. I don't know if there's I've never heard anyone talk about it, if he had a reputation of just beating the fucking piss out of people's with these chairs, because every time he swings it, he swings for the fucking fences. And tonight he put Kenny on the fucking moon.
Yeah, and to think this is the second time we've seen this too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. This is a recurring thing with him.
Yeah, and this time we had Kenny asking for it too, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure that there was probably a discussion somewhere of, if you think it's worth it to do this, then you better do it right. So he sure as hell does it right.
Then give me a concussion.
Yeah.
They give him the old, Mae Young, when she would tell those guys, don't be a pussy, treat me like one of the boys.
Yeah. Well, after that commercial break that we broke to, we got some extra footage there of Ken selling the hell out of that concussion that he just got.
Wow, he had no choice.
Yeah, I don't think he was selling, actually.
Yeah. That was just real life.
Yeah. His equilibrium.
That was whenever he was still in the ring. That was while we were at commercial. But then we cut to backstage where Kevin Kelly was there trying to interview Shamrock. Shamrock was getting worked on by some paramedics. Ken was still selling the shit out of it. He was refusing to get on the stretcher. He was almost snapping. He was unable to stand upright. That equilibrium was still fucking with him.
Again, though, selling in quotes.
Right. And we got the news that we're going to keep checking on Kenny's status as the night progresses.
They're going to keep working on him, yeah.
Don't let him fall asleep, please.
Moving forward, Sable and her disproportionately narrow ass came down to the ring to grab a microphone, and I groaned as soon as I saw what she was doing.
Yeah, that's not a good sight.
She and the camera both made sure to get a good straight-on view of cleavage before she got into it, calling out, "That little bitch Luna!" I can't do a good Sable.
You little bitch.
Sable challenged Luna to a one-on-one fight later on tonight, and I groaned again. After she left, the fucking Phoenix Suns gorilla rappelled down from the ceiling.
I popped.
He had some pretty sweet moves.
He was fucking around in the ring for a while. He springboarded up into the ring. He even joined commentary. And that was as we were shown Tom Brandi standing in the ring. And that's where I'm going to pause this before things go downhill any farther. So, Joe, it's like a switch got flipped here. We had that amazing scene of punch-drunk Ken Shamrock, only to have it followed by Sable, a fucking gorilla, and then Tom Brandi getting the jobber entrance treatment. It almost feels like they were trying to butter up the crowd with that fucking gorilla before showing them this next match. What do you think?
Well, I mean, they had me going back and forth here. I loved Ken Shamrock selling, if you will, his CTE.
Future CTE.
Yeah. Wendy Whoppers comes out and she grabs a mic, and that is not good. That's not good.
Never.
That mush and that voice, my goodness. That is not a good sight to see and not good to hear. Kind of lame, challenging Luna to a fight. Who cares? I popped for the gorilla. I fucking love the Phoenix Suns gorilla. I don't know what else to say. I fucking love the gorilla. And Tom Brandi, I do not love. So get him off of my screen.
Sable, I mean, I think we're all in agreement here. She's not that good. She calls out Luna, and nobody really gives a shit. Well, actually, I take that back. The crowd does still love her, but...
I mean, do they want to see her fight? They just want to see her.
They just want to see her, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're cheering like they want to see her fight, but that's going to leave the moment they see her in the ring. The gorilla, though, Joe, I'm in your camp. Pop for the gorilla. Like I said, I thought he had some pretty sweet moves. Coming down from the ceiling like that, dancing around in the ring. I mean, pretty damn entertaining. I could see why he's a mascot for the basketball team. And Brandi, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right, well, as you say, let's get to our next match. Good God. Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee defeats Tom Brandi by submission in 1 minute and 54 seconds.
Must see TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't change that
As
channel.
I said, Brandi got the jobber treatment at the start here, but Tennessee Lee was already in the ring to introduce Double J. He did some shit talking on Brandi real quick first. It was fucking horrible. Jarrett came down on a fucking horse. And I would have changed the channel right then and there.
A white horse.
Channel changed right there. Just to clarify an earlier statement I made, the gorilla was still on commentary, but was mute.
Well, gorillas can't talk.
So, like, audibly, you couldn't tell. There was no hooting or grunting either. So, and I hate to give Brandi credit of any kind, but Tom Brandi hit a great-looking neckbreaker on Jeff Jarrett. I wanted to have something positive here. In the end, Double J applied the figure 4, Brandi submitted, and this bullshit was over. And, I mean, I can't take any of this seriously, Ryan, can you?
Well, I mean, I don't take it seriously, but I didn't hate really any of this, to be honest with you, especially Double J coming out on the horse. I fucking loved it. It was just so over the top and ridiculous. Like, how could you not love that? Jeff Jarrett going back to his old gimmick. I love it. So I'm glad he's there. That white horse was fantastic. And Tennessee Lee's pretty great too. Oh. And I'm going to continue with my praise here because I'm glad that Brandy is back to just being a jobber, because this was a serviceable jobber match. Tom shouldn't be involved in real storylines, but jobbing out, I mean, that's what he was made for. This was a nice, short, serviceable jobber match, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. Sports entertainment is what we're here for. And seeing Double J on a white horse, that is sports entertainment for me, and I loved it.
To its finest.
Tennessee Lee, of course, I love him too.
Yeah.
I was wiping the sweat from his brow as he introduces Double J. I love it. I love this. I don't necessarily love the old Double J gimmick so much, but I think it is enhanced with my boy Tennessee Lee.
Mm-hmm. He adds an extra layer to it.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to. Take a break from the podcast a little more often. All right, let's get the hell away from that. I am glad you guys liked it. I fucking hated it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you hated it.
Yeah. Backstage, we got another update on Ken Shamrock. I guess Kenny finally succumbed to his injuries. The medics were able to get him onto a stretcher and were wheeling him out. But The Rock showed up to interrupt Kevin Kelly's update, trying to insist that Kenny was now out of the picture and would not be facing The Rock at WrestleMania, and that The Rock's fans needed to request a new challenger. That was followed by a WrestleMania retrospective, complete with Michael Cole voiceover. We got some great clips of some of the top superstars of all time, also Vader. And this went on forever. I'm pretty sure we got that Boyhood Dream line at least a half dozen times.
Oh, we did. That's a sound I got to add to the board.
Yes. And honestly, past a certain point, this began to feel like a memorial. That might be because, we know what's going on behind the scenes here in hindsight, but it made me wonder if maybe March 6th is when Vince got the news that Shawn was going to be done for a very long time. Because, this was very, very Vince-like in its amount of bulge gobbling for Shawn Michaels. We did get one for Stone Cold Steve Austin later on, so they were balanced about it. But after all of that, we got the unfortunate news that the Headbangers are going to be taking on the Rock and Roll Express later on in a handicapped match. And at first I thought, well, with the Rock and Roll Express, what other kind of match could it be? But apparently it's a handicap match because Jim Cornette is going to be wrestling. And after a commercial break, I became further convinced that goddamn gorilla was only there to prop up the shitty content because of what's about to happen next. But we will pause it here. Ryan, we had that great promo from The Rock. We got a real girthy package from Shawn Michaels. What did you think of this segment?
Well, the interview backstage with The Rock, this just kind of continued his quotes of the night, because this time he throws out "Lay the Smackdown" along with "Shut Your Mouth." So, yeah, he's just given us them all tonight, and that's fucking great. The video for Shawn Michaels, it went on and on. We got all of the quotes. The Boyhood Dream, two dudes with attitude, friendship, this is it, Austin. It was just chock full of all of the sound bites that we've heard about Shawn Michaels over the last few years. Very, very long. Not terrible if you're someone who maybe just jumped on board as a little bit of a refresher as to what's going to happen at WrestleMania. But at the end of it, I wondered, are we going to get a girthy Stone Cold video later or maybe next week? And, well, that'll be answered a little later.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this Rock promo. I think that, Ryan, like you said, he's throwing out all those catchphrases again, doing the people's eyebrow, that kind of stuff. That was really entertaining. The video package on Michaels, there's some good and bad there, I think. I think it sort of went back and relived the Shawn Michaels babyface run, which we don't want to be reminded about that because it just didn't work for me, brother. It made him come off as a babyface when he's not right now. So Shawn Michaels, to me, Vince overdoes it, obviously, but he is one of these guys who is as advertised. Like, if you're going to a live event in 96, 97, 98, and you get to see Shawn Michaels in a match, it's going to be entertaining. Like, it's going to be good. A little bit of credit there for Shawn Michaels, I guess, as we kind of looking forward to his last match for a long time here. So I did like the dramatic movie choir music that they were playing during all those super kicks. There was like a super kick compilation there.
Yeah.
That was actually a cool part of the video, even though it did run a little bit long. And, we get back to the action here, and the gorilla is there, the Phoenix Suns gorilla. And this is where I realized, I feel like I should have realized it earlier, but this was where I realized, oh my God, the gorilla is going to be smeared by Kane.
I did not
Spoiler
have
alert.
That realization at this time.
Yeah.
I should have. I really
kind of
should
have. I'm with Joe. The more times they showed him, the more times I was like,
it was,
This is almost like a chicken being.
It's the second
set
appearance.
up.
I was like, okay, he's in trouble.
Yeah, and I love it.
All right, we will get to that. But first, oh boy.
But first, we are in trouble.
This next match. The Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, defeat the Rock and Roll Express. Thank you. With Jim Cornette by pinfall in 2 minutes and 7 seconds to retain the NWA World Tag Team Championships. So I guess on Superstars, Jim Cornette somehow ended up in position to land multiple elbow drops on one of the Headbangers. I wasn't really paying attention to how that got to be that way, but we got a dozen replays of that from a dozen angles. And we got the best news so far in that Barry Windham was told to stay home. So that was nice. And man, this fucking sucked. I was ready to get the hell away from this with no further comment whenever we got to the end. But then, just as the Headbangers were starting to threaten Jim Cornette, Bob Holly and Bart Gunn hit the ring in blue tights, the letters M-E on their asses, and they beat on the Headbangers, kicked them out of the ring. Jim Cornette got on the microphone and introduced Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart, the new Midnight Express. And I then became very emotionally conflicted when Cornette directed the Midnight Express to take out the Rock and Roll Express, beating them, kicking them out of the ring. Hopefully the Rock and Roll are gone now, but we're stuck with the Midnight. So I don't know. Joe, how excited are you for the new Midnight Express?
Trading one piece of garbage for another, basically.
Yeah, at least they're younger and a little bit more physically fit.
Yeah. Well, on that topic of the aesthetics of this, so they came out with these cheesy matching wrestling gear outfits again, and Bob Holly's hair looks like shit. I'm not sure what he did to it, but it looks like shit. So they tried to make this like it's some sort of like, surprise appearance. But think about like back 96 when Scott Hall showed up on Nitro. Like he's wearing like fucking jeans and some cut off jean jacket thing. Like he looks cool. These guys are wearing these fucking cheesy wrestling singlets or whatever it is they had on. Like, why?
Not to mention the difference in caliber of wrestler that you are introducing. Scott Hall or fucking Sparkplug Holly.
Yeah, but give these guys some kind of chance at making this maybe look like it's like, oh, who is this? What's going on here? But they fucking show up in Midnight Express wrestling gear. It's just terrible. Never had a chance.
When this started, the first thing I said to myself was, God, the fucking Rock and Roll Express is old. And Robert Gilson's hair makes him look like a textbook pedo. There's no other way to say it. Look, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying he has the hair of a pedo.
What you're saying is you want a new Rock and Roll Express.
That's right. We need a new Rock and Roll Express. Yeah, after Bart and Hardcore came out here, that is the saving grace I said to myself was, well, at least they're young and in shape because they're tossing out this garbage Rock and Roll Express. I did look up a little bit more because we know so little about the Rock and Roll Express, us, not caring about the NWA. And their little feud with the Headbangers made a little bit more sense when I looked up some info. Apparently, their gimmick was that they were hair metal fans, and they would come out to like hair metal and kind of rock out to the hair metal. So there's the connection with the Headbangers being the heavy metal fans.
Here I've been living under a rock.
Yeah. Jeez.
But Bob Holly and Bart, man, where the fuck have they been? I mean, JR said it straight out. Yeah. He was like, we haven't seen these guys forever.
Yeah.
I think Bart, the last time we saw him was when he took up the honors as the very first pay-per-view jobber at that In Your House 13 Final Four. I think that's the last time we saw the fucker.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about the Midnight Express, but thankfully the Rock and Roll Express looked to be on their way out.
Yeah, I think you're right about the last time we saw Bart, unless you want to count that China video retrospective where we got footage of China jobbing him out, burying him on the side of the...
That's what he's good for.
Joe, I completely agree with what you said. These guys are fucked out of the gate just on their looks alone, and that's a real shitter because we know that Bob Holly can actually work fairly well. I think Bart Gunn is a pretty underrated in-ring worker. I mean, he doesn't have
just got to keep him off the mic. Yeah,
exactly.
You keep Bart off the mic. He's very serviceable.
These are the two perfect kind of guys to maybe be paired with a Jim Cornette who can do all of the talking and let them do the wrestling and keep their mouths shut. But it kind of gets back to that whole, you said you wanted old school wrestling and you still boo us, like, kind of mentality. Like, this is still old school wrestling and it sucks, or at least this version of it. Speaking of, things got even shittier as we transitioned to Jennifer Flowers.
Oh, boy.
Full of puns and sexual innuendo.
She's ready for any affair.
Oh, God. Have you no shame? Nobody here has any shame at all.
No.
And that goddamn gorilla was still in the fucking ring. But then the lights went out and the organ music hit. And like I said, I should have seen this coming. I didn't. But whenever this happened, my hard-on was raging with the power of 1,000 suns. Because I was over the fucking gorilla. I was over it as soon as I saw it. But here... My God, Michael Cole said, this isn't monkey business anymore. Somebody's got to get him out of here. And I popped. And while the crowd did not like all of this, JR was very indignant. He's not a wrestler.
Damn it.
And we got... There was the choke slam, there was the tombstone, and we got replays of what that fucking gorilla getting sent straight to hell. And that replay is what was finishing out the first hour of Raw. Once the show restarted, Owen Hart came down to the ring area in an air cast to join commentary. We got a replay of last week when he fucking destroyed his ankle. God, like I'm cringing just thinking about that.
Yeah, they showed that video. It was nasty.
Yeah, and the news that Owen was going to be on commentary for the whole hour. So we don't know if that gorilla had a family, but this was a great way to close out the first hour. Joe, what'd you have on this segment?
Yeah, the poor gorilla, he's not a wrestler, damn it. The Jim Ross had some great lines during this. He said, as Kane was entering, he said, Kane gives the man in the iron mask new meaning. I loved that.
Yeah.
Because that movie came out right around this time. This kid's not even moving after he got destroyed. The gorilla, you got to give him some credit. He got up there better than half the roster on that choke slam. He got way up there. That was nice. Yeah, Jim Ross really put it over. He does every time. Always just so literal and never cartoony like Vince always was. And it's just very refreshing to have him there during stuff like this.
Yeah, I have to say, the moment that the lights went out, I said to myself, "Oh God, please, Kane, kill this fucking gorilla." and then when he got I was a little bit afraid that the Undertaker was going to save the gorilla. And then when Kane got his hand around the goozle, I said, "Oh, yes." And Kane just fucking sent him to hell. I fucking loved it. And JR, we all three have to point out JR, but I did disagree with him. JR said, "This isn't funny." You're fucking wrong. It was hilarious, JR.
Poor kid's not even moving.
Well, once they scraped up the destroyed carcass of that gorilla, we moved on to our next match. Chainsaw Charlie defeats Billy Gunn with the Road Dogg by disqualification in 2 minutes and 23 seconds. The Outlaws came out with a dumpster.
Well, it's their manager, isn't it?
That's funny. But the Road Dogg was on the mic, and he laid down an amazing promo on their way down to the ring. Unfortunately, though, the Road Dogg held on to the mic, talking through the match. Commentary actually made mention of how distracting it was, and I agreed with that. That's not to say that Road Dogg isn't good at what he does. It's just there's a time and place for it, and it's kind of equivalent to a phone call, in my book at least. Sorry to say that Owen was not very entertaining on commentary during this, and after the disqualification, I actually completely lost all interest in this when a crew member handed Charlie some kind of rope to winch the Road Dogg up. This was hanging the roadie up like a piñata by his ankles, and that's all I've got. It was a good effort, I suppose, but this feud does not feel any fresher to me after this match. So, Ryan, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think that that's probably the biggest problem with this segment, because the match was pretty short, but it was fine. We get the typical Chainsaw Charlie stuff in the ring. I could have done without Road Dogg talking over the whole match, although I do agree his promo on the way down the ramp was very good. It's just, let's let commentary booth do their thing, and we don't need him talking over them. Once Charlie got the upper hand on the Outlaws, it just, I don't know, it kind of clunked along with Jack coming out. They slowly hog tie Road Dogg. Cactus yanks him up like a freshly killed big game animal. And then that was just kind of it. He just kind of left him like 5 feet off the ground. You know, it wasn't the worst segment of the Cactus Jack Charlie Outlaw feud, but it certainly wasn't the best either.
Yeah.
This feud has been a little lackluster recently. It was very dramatic for a little bit with that dumpster thing that they did. And then after that, it's just like... The car
thing was cool.
Yeah, but it's almost like they don't really know where to go with it. There's like no beginning, middle, and end to it. Even with that said, and this was a little ridiculous, this segment with tying up Road Dogg and Road Dogg doing his best Jackal impression during the match and fucking talking through the whole thing. But I mean, I have to say, with the 4 people who are involved, I'm still looking forward to their match at WrestleMania. I don't remember the match at all, but considering who's involved, I'm still looking forward to it, even though they have a kind of a shitty story building up to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's kind of just everyone involved is good. It's just they've been putting it on so long and it's been dragging on so long. They're running out of ways to hype it up. And it's starting to go a little stale.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's that they blew their load too early with the dumpster, with the car, and now they really can't do anything to top that until they get to that freedom zone that is a pay-per-view where they can get away with a hell of a lot more. So we're just kind of left straggling during these weekly Raw updates.
Bop it.
After that, we broke commercial and came back to a close-up view of Luna, right up in the mush, looking pissed off as well as from the future. Luna responded to Sable without really responding, so I wasn't quite sure how to describe what she said. She kind of accepted, but didn't really. She said it was more, going to be on her terms, and I don't know. But then the crowd in the arena erupted in boos as Vince McMahon made his way to the ring to meet Kevin Kelly for an interview. And while he was on his way there, JR informed us that the WWF was going to be at the Civic Arena this week, Friday, March 20th, 1998. And since it is entirely possible that we could have attended that, I'd like to read the match card in order for you guys and just get your reactions on the matches that we would have seen there.
Was the main event DOA versus Bariquas?
I can't wait to hear what you think of some of these. And it's funny, too, because the past couple weeks I've been thinking to myself, we have to be getting back to Pittsburgh sometime soon. It's been too long since we've had one of these segments.
Got your wish.
Yeah, here we are with a super deep roster.
Kicking it off, the opening match, Taka Michinoku defeats Brian Christopher to retain the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship.
Never saw that match before.
Yeah, there's a new one.
Following that, a country whipping match, the Godwins defeating the DOA.
That isn't who I was expecting to be in that one, but okay.
Yeah, I'm sure the people of Pittsburgh loved it.
Following that, Bradshaw defeats Barry Windham.
Oh, my God.
Jesus.
Wow, what a difficult event to get through. Holy shit.
I hope that beer was flowing free.
That was followed by the Headbangers defeating the Quebecers to retain the NWA Tag Team titles.
Which means so much in Pittsburgh. I'm sure they loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Marrow defeated Goldust. That was maybe something.
Yeah, that could have maybe been okay.
Things started to pick up a little bit here towards the end of the card. Cactus Jack defeated Billy Gunn in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Ooh,
okay, very good.
Yeah, that could have been entertaining for sure.
Ken Shamrock defeated The Rock by disqualification, with The Rock retaining the IC title as a result.
Yeah, that's another good one.
The Undertaker defeated Kama. We would have got to see Taker here.
Yeah.
Big names. One at a time, though. One at a time.
And our main event to round out the night, Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Triple H with China.
Ooh.
Okay.
I mean, the second half of that card was very strong.
Yeah.
But the first half was, whoo.
Strong finish, but I think it goes to show how the roster is not really that deep with talent right now.
They have half a card of a good roster.
Yeah, they're still like probably a year away from having a real strong roster.
All right. Well, like I said, I was very, very happy to be able to present that to you guys. It's been too long. So we will get back to the ring. Vince was addressing the unprofessional nature of his interactions with Stone Cold Steve Austin last week on Raw, with footage of all of that up on the Titantron. Vince said he doesn't appreciate sign language, much less sign language in his face.
Breaking news, Vince McMahon hates the deaf.
This beginning part of it, I couldn't think of a better way to put it, but I tried to sum it up in that Vince was just delivering a story. And I don't necessarily mean that in a good way, because parts of this early section here felt very scripted. And I guess I can, chalk that up to Vince just as kind of a green talent rather than a commentator. But as things moved along, Vince stated the reason he didn't hit Austin is because Austin wouldn't be able to compete at WrestleMania with a broken jaw. And
man, I fucking laughed so loud at
pick
that.
up. When pressed about whether McMahon wants Austin as the WWF champion, Vince said it would be a public relations nightmare. Kevin Kelly kept pressing. Vince said, "You can't handle the truth." And when finally pressed to give a yes or no answer, Vince gave us, "Oh, hell no." And that was followed by another girthy video package, this time centering around Stone Cold Steve Austin and his entire WWF career. After that, Triple H came down to the ring and started running his mouth about Owen Hart hiding, and then challenged Owen Hart for the European title right now. Owen didn't have any good responses to that. Admittedly, Triple H didn't really allow Owen to respond, and eventually punches got thrown. And I'm going to pause it here because this does progress, and we've had a pretty girthy segment as well as a girthy package.
Girthy package like Shawn Michaels.
We had Mr. McMahon. And I have that as capitalized and, trying to emphasize the distinction here. I feel like we started this out with Vince, but he evolved before our very eyes into Mr. McMahon during this interview. And, that enormous filler video. What'd you have on this segment?
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I would agree that at the start of it was a little bit scripted, and I would chalk it up to Vince being a green character. He's been a commentary guy for years here, but he hasn't played a character yet. So I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway there. He does start it off, though, and this was a little confusing to me because going into this, Austin's clearly the baby face and Shawn is the heel, but Vince couldn't stop professing his love for Shawn Michaels, gloating about Shawn Michaels outsmarting Austin and him having this smirk on his face about it. So I thought that was kind of funny that no matter, or even playing a character, his love of Shawn Michaels bleeds through. But I loved Kevin Kelly during this interview. The way he just kept on pressing Vince McMahon. I was actually a little bit worried when Vince turned and became Mr. McMahon, as you said. I was afraid he was going to do something to Kevin Kelly, like fire him or, kick his ass or, one of his things that Mr. McMahon would do, just because how pressing Kevin Kelly was about this, saying, how did it feel to get thrown out of your own ring? And, you could just see Vince stewing there. I thought all of that was done really well. But the moment that Kevin Kelly said, we want the truth, it was like putting the ball up on the tee stand, you knew you couldn't handle the truth was about to come. But all of it was great, especially, oh, hell no. Just so fucking great. I popped my ass off when the true Mr. McMahon bled through there. Then we went on to the second girthy video of the night, the Austin filler video, but there was one surprise in it. I don't know if either of you caught it, but when they replayed the video of him coming in and crashing the Raw with his truck, they left the AC/DC music on this time.
Oh.
So I was like, whoa, what happened there? Why didn't you silent it here?
That's funny. Yeah, I love seeing the Vince McMahon entrances right now. This is before the No Chance in Hell music, so he just walks out to no music, and it's just a crowd just booing the shit out of him, and it's great to see. Vince McMahon, we've said, Ryan, you had a list of your favorite heels of all time. We've said Mr. McMahon is the greatest heel of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
Mr. McMahon, to me, might be the greatest wrestling character of all time, let alone just heel. To me, I think the reason why it came off as scripted was because they had a specific plan that they were working through here, probably, where Vince was telling Kevin Kelly in the back, I want you to do this, this, and this, and then I want you to do this so I can hit these marks and become Mr. McMahon halfway through this interview. So I thought it was very well done on both parts, even though it did sort of come across as scripted. I think it was just more half prepared, I guess, for it. I popped when Vince said Austin being champion, acting the way he does would be a PR corporate nightmare. When he said that, they immediately showed those guys with Austin painted on their chests. With those shirtless guys. It was just perfect timing by the camera there when Vince said that. So I thought that was great. But yeah, this Vince McMahon interview was just amazing. Vince also said it doesn't matter what he thinks, that it only matters what the fans think about Austin being champion. And he's basically not lying about that because Austin is going to make him a shitload of money. So that was a very truthful statement there. But yeah, that was cool. I did not notice that about the music on the video pack. package, so thank you for pointing that
I
out.
laughed my ass off when I saw that.
Definitely didn't notice that.
I loved that segment. One of my favorite parts was whenever Kevin Kelly started really pressing Vince, and Vince, it could maybe be the spot where the switch got flipped. Vince gives Kevin Kelly that look. Ryan, I think you mentioned it. And whenever he does, Jerry Lawler says, "Watch out, Kevin, he can fire you." JR says, "Oh, I've seen that look before."
Yeah.
And Jerry Lawler says, "Yeah, me too."
What's funny is Vince does this in real interviews. Like, have you ever seen his interview with Bob Costas where he just like goes off? This is what he does in real interviews. And that's probably what they talked about before. You know, here's what I want it to look like.
Well, I think we should probably put down in the history books that Kevin Kelly's pressing created Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it is purely due to Kevin Kelly's skill as an interviewer that the character of Vince McMahon was created. I'm down with that.
Put it in the books.
All right, something that I am not down with. Like I said, we had this impromptu thing going on. It's our next match. Triple H with China defeats Owen Hart by referee's discretion in 51 seconds to win the WWF European Championship. Good God. China wasn't out at first. She did show up while the ref was distracted to nail Owen's injured leg with a baseball bat. She then threw Owen back in the ring. Triple H applied a hold. Owen was screaming in pain. The referee called the match, even though Owen did not submit, and then awarded the European title to Triple H as a result of referee's discretion. Triple H made sure to piss all over Owen in every way possible in his brief post-match promo. We did not even get to see Owen Hart exiting the ring. Joe, please, what the fuck was this?
Well, they have me fooled here because I don't know if this is their shitty way of dealing with Owen Hart's injury or if they're just further burying him. Unfortunately, based on the news that I read, I think they're just further burying him here because his injury, surprisingly, after seeing it, it doesn't sound as bad as it looks. So, yeah, I think this is just further burial of Owen Hart, which is really unfortunate. And China comes in there with this bat that is clearly a wiffle ball bat that they gimmicked to look like
spray painted black,
an aluminum bat or whatever, because that thing fucking bounced off of that boot whenever she...
And it just made that sound like...
Yeah, so this was really disappointing to watch because yet again, I feel like Owen Hart is just getting buried 6 feet under.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add. It's just so sad to see what they'll do to Owen Hart here. And they just allow Triple H to continuously humiliate him. And then he has to just give the belt away by the fucking ref's discretion. Fuck me, Owen. I feel so bad for him. You know, especially his brother has just been run out of the company and now they're just running him into the ground under their boot. And it's sad to see.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
And Bulldog too. Like, we forget about Bulldog. Like, he's fucking gone too.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes this as tragic as it is. He's the sole
He's
survivor.
the only one.
I mean, that's a literal thing for him, and he's stuck dealing with all of this shit because he needs to hit the pay window.
Yeah,
we can't
hit
fault
the pay
him for
window.
that.
He's got a wife and kids and shit. Needs the
he's got
needs the
gotta
money.
make a living.
Getting fucking humiliated every week.
Yeah. Makes you wonder who the sadist was here that wanted all this to happen. Was it Vince? Was it Shawn? Was it Triple H? Was it?
I think we know it was Vince because of the present news that we know about Vince. He enjoys humiliating people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good call. All right, let's get the fuck away from that. Yeah, we weren't fucking around as we went into our final match of the night. Luna with Goldust versus Sable with Mark Marrow ends in a no contest before it could begin. JR did make the distinction at the start of this that this is not a match so much as it's a confrontation.
Yeah.
It's bullshit no matter which way you slice it, though, so we'll just move along through this. I mean, it really wasn't even a confrontation because there was a flood of officials there to keep them separated. They came out with entrances. They came out with ring graphics. They came out with this promise of a match, and they also came out with officials to keep them apart. And I fucking counted. There were 10 men in that ring. 2 of them were current wrestlers. 3 of them were former wrestlers, and they couldn't keep these two separated. It was like they were greased or something. I mean, it really begs the question of why we got that entrance music. Why did we get the graphics if they weren't going to allow them to fight from the get-go? I mean, it was a non-starter. They did finally get hands on each other, but that was only after Luna shoved Goldust down, which then begs the question of, if Luna can overpower Goldust, how does she lose to Sable here? Which she kinda did, because Luna is the one retreating, being consoled in Goldust's arms. But it wasn't over there. Sable had some kind of ankle injury. She couldn't walk, and so her and Mero were left in the ring. And the lights went out, the organ music hit, and I said, what the fuck, out loud. JR said, for God's sakes, no! Kane got in the ring. After coming down, he fired off his corner post pyro. That caused Mero to run like a chicken shit, leaving Sable in the ring, which I liked. But then, just as Kane was getting ready to goozle Sable for a chokeslam, the lights went out again, and this time it was a bell tolling. A spotlight lit up the Undertaker. He was standing on top of the Titantron, and Taker paraphrased the same Bible verse that Jules uses in Pulp Fiction. And then he pointed to a casket that had appeared at the top of the entryway. The casket opened on its own, lightning struck it, and there was like a mannequin figure inside that erupted into flame.
That looked nothing like Kane, by the way.
No.
That's some red on. Come on.
It had breasts, for God's sakes. And this burning mannequin was just pouring carcinogens into this closed arena, and we faded to black. Man, what a finish. To be sure, it was pretty shaky getting to that finish. There is nothing good about this Sable Luna feud. There is nothing good about this segment and the way they set it up or how they executed it. But at least they used it to get to Undertaker and Kane. So we got that at least. Ryan, why don't you please get us started on this confrontation and the way that Raw ended tonight?
It was definitely a tale of two stories in this segment. It started off with Luna and Sable, and, you know, as we've said, Luna is fine, but we just don't care to see anything about Sable, and that continued. Why they made it sound like we were going to have a match all night, and then the officials come out and just make sure nothing happens, no confrontation whatsoever, that made no sense, though maybe they're just trying to save us a little bit longer before we get exposed to Sable in the ring and in an actual fight, because I'm sure at this point they've been trying to teach her things and they've come to the realization that she's a terrible wrestler. We gotta keep her out of the ring as much as possible. But then the whole thing with Kane, well, first I popped my ass off when I thought just maybe, I mean, I knew in the back of my head the Undertaker was going to show up, but just maybe Kane was going to send Sable to hell. And when he stepped in the ring, we got another great line from JR, always coming up with new ones. He said, "This is hell on earth." And just fucking love JR. Mark hightailing it out of the ring, though. That was a good touch. The moment Kane fired off his pyro and he just ran, leaving Sable alone in the ring. But everything picked up once you saw the Undertaker at the top of the Titantron. Just great visual. He paraphrasing the Jules comment from Pulp Fiction. That was cool. And then even though this effigy didn't look like Kane at all, it was a great sight. The coffin opening up, the lightning bolt, it exploding in the flames. By God.
Yeah, the confrontation is the old bait and switch that Monday Night Raw loves so much. We had Sable come out at the beginning of the show telling us that she wanted to fight Luna, and here it is, and it just doesn't happen. Everything before the organ music it could have been done a little bit better, I think. I mean, Sable wants to fight, which is fine, but she comes out with her like sexy leather open back outfit that she always wears with these huge high heels. else. Like, have her come out in like a sports bra if she's showing off the whoppers. Have her come out in like a sports bra and some shorts or something, like ready for a fight, you know?
And like normal shoes.
Yeah, if they want to sell it like a fight. So it was just more ridiculous bullshit that they're trying to make us believe that Sable can beat up Luna, and it wouldn't happen realistically. But after the organ hits, business picked up. Obviously, Sable was not going to get destroyed by Kane. I think we all knew that.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the Undertaker, and they're loving these magic tricks with the Undertaker these past couple weeks. And I think this, even though, you know, the dummy was basically just a mannequin that did not look like Kane, I think this was very well done, and I really liked Paul Bearer selling it a little bit more at the end there. He was very disgusted by what he was seeing and did a nice job of selling that. So up to this point, Kane has been kind of... I hated the Vader match. I feel like that made Kane look kind of weak. But outside of that, Kane has looked pretty unstoppable, but they've done a good job at reminding people who the Undertaker is. And that's what they're building up to for WrestleMania.
Totally agree.
Yeah, same. Joe, was it you that had said how many weeks in a row are we going to end with a Sable segment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this is the third week in a row, right?
Well, I think we had one off.
You're right.
I thought we had two in a row, one off, and then this one.
There have been multiple.
Yeah, way too many. Yeah.
Too many. All right. Well, as I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
Well, this episode had a little bit of garbage in it, but I do have to say they're doing a very good job of building up to WrestleMania. I think there's a lot to be excited for. Ken Shamrock and The Rock, Austin versus Michaels. I mean, even this Sable Luna thing, it's almost like the car wreck. You don't want to see it, but you kind of do, just to see what's going on.
Will they pop out? Won't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I think this episode is very good. It's a very good build up to WrestleMania. But my highlight is definitely the Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon interview. I thought that was just very well done. And my low light, I'm going to go with the new Midnight Express. That was really terrible.
Well, I'm going to differ on both from you tonight, Joe. The highlight, I mean, the Vince McMahon segment is probably truly the highlight, but I'm going when Kane sent the Phoenix Sun Gorilla straight to hell. I popped my ass off for that segment, and I just loved it. So that is my highlight. And my low light is the continuing humiliation of Owen Hart. It's just really, really sad to see at this point.
Yeah, you guys have made excellent calls with your picks. And Ryan, I'm actually going to agree with you on the highlight. That gorilla getting sent straight to hell made my night watching this. I mean, if it wasn't going to be that, I actually probably would have went with the Rock Ken Shamrock interaction to start the show.
A lot of good stuff tonight.
Yeah, well, so I don't know that I would say a lot, and I think that leads to my low light, where I do differ from you guys. My low light was the fact that our longest match tonight was 2 minutes and 23 seconds. This episode was way too heavy on the entertainment for me, not enough sports. There's a very fine line, to be sure, with some of this, but just not enough wrestling for me.
Is this the famous episode that has the shortest amount of wrestling in it? It's like 13 total minutes of wrestling or something. I almost feel like it could be.
You know, that actually sounds like it would be about right.
I remember Conrad talking about it a few years ago, about there being some episode that is like only 13 minutes of wrestling out of the 2 hours.
I feel like things are going to get worse when they start doing the corporation stable and things like that, as far as like lack of wrestling.
If the longest match was 2 minutes and we only had a handful of matches.
Yeah, I think that if this isn't that episode, then it's a very, very strong contender.
Yeah, see, I don't mind that as much. I like the sports entertainment, and the wrestling is the pay-per-views. Like, that's where the wrestling comes in for me.
Yeah, I prefer that balance, though. I mean, I'm good with the entertainment. It just needs to be centered around the sports. And I think that it's maybe a way for them to get a little lazy on their match booking. They don't have to put effort into these Monday Night Raws anymore because they're saving it up for the pay-per-views. Meanwhile, they can give us, and they have before, solid 5-minute matches, 6-minute matches that aren't flashy. They're just good ring work from good workers to just, pad out the entertainment a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, it's all a matter of subjective opinion. So, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around March 16th, 1998 for us?
Yeah, just a little bit going on this week. We still have another Raw before WrestleMania, right? I think we have one more week.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I mentioned it earlier. Owen Hart, Dave Meltzer is reporting that he is at about 75% and should be back later this week to return.
Whoa.
Huh.
His injury doesn't seem as bad as it looked, like I said earlier. No decision, I know you guys have been waiting on this, but no decision has been made on whether to scrap the NWA title or do something with it, according to Dave
Okay.
Meltzer.
I thought you were being sarcastic at first, but I genuinely have been waiting on some kind of something to just what the fuck is going
They're
on
going
with
to
that. I'm
actually
very happy that
they're going to scrap it in a yard. They're going to take it to the scrap yard and get rid of it.
It's where it belongs.
And the only other piece of news here is that Steve Austin will be making an appearance on a TV show. Any guesses on what that show will be? I'll give you a hint. It is a daytime morning show.
Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yes, sir.
All right.
He
Regis
will be
loves
the
him some wrestling.
representative going on Regis and Kathy Lee this week. And Steve Austin will also be appearing on an episode of The Drew Carey Show.
Oh,
Oh, wow. I don't remember that at all.
yeah.
So that is a little bit of exciting news there for Steve Austin as he builds up to his match at WrestleMania. And that is all this week.
All right. Excellent. I might have to go check that out. I always liked the Drew Carey show, so I might have to see if I can track that episode down and watch it. Well, that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW, just at gmail.com at the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most unflappable Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 23rd, 1998, with matches featuring The Midnight Express, Barry Windham, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.